So this is going to be a quick conversation about the case of Patricia Patti Adkins. This is a case of a missing person. She was featured on the show Disappeared, which I have said before plenty of times that Disappeared is one of my most favorite shows ever. I'm still really upset that it's no longer in production. I don't see how a show like that could ever be out of production with the number of missing cases that come up every single year. But anyway, so she was featured on Disappeared. I don't know what year it was, but it was I think it was season 3. And she disappeared on June 29th, 2001. Now, she was a 29-year-old single mother from Marysville, Ohio. She worked at a Honda plant. And the situation around her case was that at the place where she worked, at the Honda plant, she was, I think, a team lead. She started working there when she was 19 years old, and she advanced all the way up to team lead. And she was one of the very few female employees there who was in a leadership position. So she was really proud of her position, and she had plans to go even further in her career. She was the youngest of 5 siblings. Two of her sisters were featured on the show. And by all accounts, she was a really sweet young woman. She had a 6-year-old daughter. She was a very responsible person, a very loving, caring, giving person. Her sisters had nothing but, beautiful, kind words to say about her. And it's a real shame about what happened to her. So on June 29th, 2001, that was the week of July 4th. And every single July 4th week, the entire plant was shut down for the whole entire week. So basically, everybody gets a week-long vacation. And at the Honda plant, she was having a relationship with a coworker. It was a very secretive relationship. Very few people knew about the relationship. Her sisters knew about it. And I think 1 or 2 other really close friends of hers at work knew about the relationship as well. The issue is that the coworker himself was married with children. And he had led Patti to believe that he was in the process of getting a divorce from his wife. Now, along with working at the Honda plant, the coworker also had his own business. It was some type of an auto repair shop, I think. I could be wrong, but some type of a mechanical auto repair shop. And he was half owner of this business. And he had told Patti that in order for his wife to not get any of the ownership of the business, that he would sell his half to his partner, which was his brother-in-law, so that when they go through with the divorce, she would have no hands on the business at all. And then eventually, I guess the brother-in-law would sell back his half after the divorce. So he had Patti believing that he was intent about getting the divorce. Patti had told her sisters that his marriage was already on the rocks, and that the plan was for him to divorce his wife and then for him to marry her. And so Patti believed with all her heart that they were going to get married, have a family, live together happily ever after. So June 29, 2001 was the last day that she worked at the Honda plant. She worked from 3:30 p.m. until midnight. At midnight, everybody clocks out, getting ready for the week-long break. Now, her and her boyfriend, this man that she was having an affair with, according to her sisters, she had told them that they had planned to take a week-long vacation to Canada. And her sisters had said that they were going to go to a very remote part of Canada and spend the week together there. Now, the strange thing about what she had told her sisters about this vacation was that, number one, there would be no cell phone service because they were going to be in a really remote part of Canada. Number two, her boyfriend had told her not to pack any clothes because they were going to buy clothes there when they got to Canada. And her sister had questioned her, well, if it's so remote, where are you gonna buy clothes and all the things that you need for the week up there? So that night, she clocks out. She didn't drive to work that day. She actually had gotten a ride with another female coworker and left her car at home. So she drove with her coworker that day, and so that night she could leave with her boyfriend in his work truck to go to Canada. So her sister said that what Patti told them was that she was going to clock out a little bit early, and she was going to wait for him in his truck. But she wasn't going to wait in the passenger side of the truck. She was actually going to wait in the bed of the truck. So the boyfriend had bought something called a tonneau cover, where it's a covering that you put over the bed of your truck. And so she was going to crawl underneath this tonneau cover and wait for him in the bed of the truck, because I guess he had planned to leave with a coworker buddy, where he was going to drop off a coworker buddy off at his home, and him and Patti would proceed on to Canada. So as far as her sisters knew, that night she takes off to Canada with her boyfriend, and she was going to be gone for a week, and she was supposed to return the Sunday after July 4th. And she had left her 6-year-old daughter with one of her sisters. Now, she had a sister living in Miami, and I guess her other sister lived in Ohio. So the week goes by. She never heard from Patti during that week because, as I said before, they were traveling to a very remote part of Canada, and there was going to be no cell phone service. So her sister wasn't expecting any type of communication from Patti during that week. Now, the Sunday of when she was supposed to return back home, the time that she was supposed to pick up her daughter, Patti doesn't show up. Okay, so then her sister waits a little bit longer. Patti still doesn't show up. So now her sister's getting worried because Patti's a very responsible person, and if she says she's going to be somewhere at a certain time, Patti's going to be there at that time. So she waited all day Sunday, nothing. So she ends up calling the boyfriend, and the wife answers the phone. And so her sister tells the wife, well, she asks for the man. And the wife said, well, he's not here, but he should be back later. So this gave her sister hope that he was going to return with Patti later on that day. So when later on that day came and went and still nothing from Patti, she called again. Now, this time, the man himself answered. And so the sister's asking about Patti, and the man is like, completely confused over the phone. And so the man is like, Patti? Oh, you mean the girl from Honda? Acts like he doesn't even know who she is. Now, this is the man that was supposed to spend an entire week in a remote part of Canada with her sister, and now he's acting as if he doesn't even know who she is. So I guess the panic button goes off on her sister, and she's like, you're supposed to be in Canada with my sister Patti. Y'all were supposed to have taken a week-long trip to Canada. The man was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. I've been here the whole time. I don't know what you mean going to Canada with who again? I have no idea what you're talking about. So that starts the mystery. The mystery now begins of where's Patti. So over the course of their relationship, Patti and this coworker of hers, there was a lot of mystery around this relationship. Supposedly, very few people knew about it. Her two sisters knew, and her sisters completely discouraged her from being involved with a married man. But Patti was so convinced that this was the love of her life, her soulmate, the one that she was meant to be with, that there was nothing that anybody could tell her to end the relationship. It just wasn't going to happen. So her sisters were cautiously supportive. They supported their sister as far as, we want you to be happy, and we're not going to, pull you away from your happiness, but at the same time, we need you to be extra careful. But Patti was convinced that this man loved her just as much as she loved him, and that they had a future together. So there's that one part. There's that part of it where, and then supposedly they had only seen each other outside of work a handful of times. Now, it came out that they had seen each other possibly 2 to 3 times. Now, they've been dating for almost 2 years, but only seen each other outside of work 2 or 3 times. Also, she had lent him a considerable amount of money. Now, she told her sisters that she had lent him $25,000 or $20,000, and coming to find out, it was closer to $90,000 that she had lent him in a course of a year to a year and a half. When she didn't return that day and didn't return the next day, of course, they file a missing persons report. The police get involved. The detectives start doing their investigation. And, it comes out that she had actually lent him closer to $90,000. And Also, they had found out that Patti was expecting him to start paying her back July of 2001, and July is when she ends up missing. So the man acts like he didn't really know her, that they really were not that close, that they were basically just, work associates, if that even, he barely knew her. And there was no other type of proof of them carrying on this deep, intense relationship other than what Patti told her sisters and her coworker. The man denied any trip about Canada. The man denied seeing Patti anytime after they clocked out on June the 29th. Just completely denied everything. So the investigators were able to see where she had taken money out, and that total $90,000, where she had taken $30,000 out of her 401k. She took out a second mortgage, got $25,000 cash out from that. She had made cash advances. She had cashed out her stocks. So they see where money was leaving Patti, but they can never pinpoint where it got to him. And her sister had mentioned that because they looked at his bank accounts and they didn't see any money, that equaled the amount of the money that she was giving to him. So her sister had mentioned that, well, Patti did say that because her sister had asked her, you're giving him all this money. Are you making him sign a promissory note? Are you keeping some type of a paper trail? And Patti had told her sister that because of his divorce, the man did not want any kind of paper trail of this money. And so I'm assuming that Patti had given him all of this money in cash. So it was untraceable. And he denied ever receiving any type of money from her because he said that, hey, we weren't really that close. We were just co-workers. So during their investigation, the police wanted to link anything, and they wanted to find any kind of link between him and Patti. Now, at one point, Patti had gone to visit her sister in Miami. And while she was in Miami, this was about a year before she disappeared, she had bought a Hard Rock Cafe t-shirt specifically for him. Now, during the investigation after she disappeared, they found this Hard Rock Cafe t-shirt in his possession. So this led them to get a search warrant to search his property. So they brought cadaver dogs. The cadaver dogs alerted to a scent on his property. But when they came to dig it up, it wasn't even human remains. I think it was animal remains. So then they go to the tonneau cover that supposedly Patti had crawled under to hide while she was waiting for him to clock out that night. So it's a good thing that Patti was giving her sisters all of this information, because without Patti telling her sisters all of this stuff, I don't know if they even would have gotten as far as they've gotten. So they decide to confiscate the tonneau cover and examine it for any kind of potential trace evidence, DNA, etc. Now, his coworker or co-partner of the business that he owned said that it was highly unusual for him. It would have been unusual for him to buy a tonneau cover for their work truck, because they haul car parts, big clunky parts, mechanical parts, what have you, in the bed of that truck. So to put this thin covering over it would not have made any sense at all. The co-owner of the business was like, that just doesn't make any sense, of why he would have bought that. So they were able to determine that he bought the tonneau cover June the 29th, and then he put it up, he got rid of it, or he put it away a few days after that. So he really wasn't using it for work. It was obviously as if he had a very specific purpose for it. And once that purpose was over, he put the tonneau cover away. So they take the tonneau cover and they submit it to the lab to search for any kind of forensic evidence. And they found cat hairs, and they found one spot of blood. So as far as the cat hair was concerned, they wanted to do further investigation on the cat hair to see if it would match the cat that Patti owned. Well, they had to take the cat hair. They had to send it off to a special lab in Texas that specialized in animal DNA. Now, when they took it to that lab in Texas, the results were that it was cat hair and that it did match Patti's cat. So that was evidence that Patti definitely was in the bed of that truck. This man denied having anything to do with her that day. Why is this woman in the bed of your truck? So they have the cat hair, and then when it came time to test the sample of blood, it was such a small, tiny sample that if they decided to test it, it would destroy the entire sample. So they made the decision to preserve that sample but not test it, and they were going to wait for DNA technology, blood testing technology, to advance to a point where they would be able to test the sample without destroying the sample, because this would be a very, very, very strong link that, he was the last person to see Patti before she disappeared. So as far as I know, it's been 19 years since she's gone missing, and this sample of blood has yet to be tested. So basically, the reason why this case stuck with me is because watching the reenactment of this case, when they're showing the reenactment of it, you see the woman who's playing Patti. You see in how she's crawling into the bed of this truck, and it's just so haunting. It's so haunting to see that, to imagine Patti doing that. Here's this young woman with so much hope about her future with this man, so excited about this trip to Canada, that she's willing to crawl underneath a cover of this truck and to stay there in the bed of that truck at midnight in this dark parking lot, waiting for this man so they can have their little getaway in Canada. That is almost heartbreaking, that she would go to such lengths, to be with this man. And if they had only seen each other a handful of times outside of work, and when the detectives interviewed all of her coworkers, it was the consensus that they didn't spend an abnormal amount of time with each other at work. It wasn't beyond a business or professional relationship. I think she was his superior or a superior, and there was nothing out of the ordinary or unusual about their interactions. Yes, they did talk, but of course they would talk because they worked together, but there was no flirtation. There wasn't like getting caught in the break room making out or leaving together for lunch and coming back together. There was nothing to indicate that they were having a relationship. So it makes you wonder, what was it about this man that would have Patti just completely act completely out of character? This man wasn't taking her to expensive trips. He wasn't, buying her jewelry, paying, all of her bills, supporting her. What was it about this man that it appears like she barely spent time with that would have gotten her acting so out of character? I just can't imagine. But her sisters did say that the whole act of her crawling into the bed of this truck underneath this tonneau cover and waiting for him to clock out, Patti kind of referred to it as like an adventure. She saw this as a fun adventure. So that whole week that she was supposed to be in Canada with him, he was home with his wife, doing, projects around the house. He was home. Where was Patti? He was home. His wife said that he was home the whole week except for Thursday when he went fishing with his friends. The coworker that he had given a ride home to on that night, that fateful night of June 29th, I think they interviewed him, and he didn't, say anything was out of the ordinary on his ride with the coworker when the coworker was dropping him off. He says that he didn't really know her that well, that he had no plans on going anywhere with her, let alone some remote place in Canada, and that he was happily married, had no intentions of leaving his wife. Bizarre. Bizarre. So my theory is that he knew that he had to pay this money back, and possibly his wife had no idea that he was having this relationship with her. He played Patti from day one. I don't think that he had any kind of romantic feelings towards her. I think that somehow he knew. It was revealed to him somehow by Patti herself, I guess, that she was a very giving person. Maybe he knew that she had access to all this money. I don't know. One more thing before I forget. When the investigators were asking the man about, his relationship with Patti, and he just denied, having anything other than a work relationship with her, he did admit that she had given him a birthday card. And he said that as soon as she gave him that birthday card, which, woman to woman, I'm pretty sure she had put a lot of thought in that birthday card, because, she's in love with this man. As soon as he gave her the birthday card, he tore it up and threw it away. He says he didn't want his wife to see it because he didn't want his wife to get jealous. So my theory is that he played her. He used her for her money. And when it came time to pay up, he killed her. He killed her. I don't see how it could be any other way. This woman did not voluntarily walk out of her life and leave her daughter behind. He killed her. I don't know what else could have happened to this woman other than her vanishing in thin air, which we know that didn't happen. So it's frustrating when I watch shows like this, especially when I would watch Disappeared, and every single thing is pointing to the most obvious suspect. But for whatever reason, the police can't do anything about it. There's been so many cases that I have seen where the last person to have seen the person who disappeared, everything, big, bold red arrows are pointing to this person is the one. This person did it. This person is the killer. But the cops will do nothing about it. Can't do anything about it. And, it's just beyond me. I don't want this video to get too long because there's a perfect example of another case that was featured on Disappeared where a man had gone missing, and his wife said that his wife and the wife's boyfriend said that, he went fishing and got eaten up by alligators. Well, come to find out, no, that wasn't the case. The wife and the boyfriend killed him. When I watched that show originally, I was like, this woman is responsible for this man's death. As soon as he disappeared, she takes their kid and she leaves. She moves in with the boyfriend, which happened to be his best friend. And they start this life together. And she kept her dead husband's, or at the time, her missing husband's mother away from her daughter. Wouldn't even let the grandmother, which was the mother of the missing man at the time, have anything to do with her granddaughter. So this poor old lady had a missing son and had lost complete contact with her grandchild, which was this man's only child. Well, years later, they were convicted of his murder. Now they're both sitting in prison for killing this man. And just like with this Patti Adkins case, everything is pointing to her co-worker that she was having this affair with. They found the Hard Rock Cafe t-shirt in his home. Now, why would someone that you barely know give you a Hard Rock Cafe t-shirt when they went to go see their sister in Miami? Why would someone who you barely know give you a personal birthday card? Not a birthday card signed by everybody else at the office, or everybody else or a couple of the coworkers get together and give you a card. No, She got this on her own card that she gives to you, solely from her to you, but you're going to sit here and say, no. Not only did she tell, now the thing is that the investigators on the shows had said that they believe the whole Canada story, that there was this trip to Canada. They totally believe it because several people attested to that. And these people did not know each other, but they all said the same thing. So the investigators totally believe that this man had made plans or had told Patti that they were going to go to Canada. That Patti had made plans to go to Canada with this man. And that everything worked, folded out the way that she said that it would. That she went into this truck, that she was going to hide in the bed of the truck, that they were going to go to a remote place in Canada. And of course he's going to tell her not to pack because he doesn't want to go through, after he disposes of her body, he doesn't want to have to deal with her clothes and her suitcases. And of course he tells her, don't bother taking your phone because we're going to go to a really remote place in Canada where there's no cell phone service, because he doesn't want nothing tracked. He doesn't want her phone to ping. It's so obvious. He tells her not to pack. He tells her don't bring a cell phone. And then she disappears. And there's no evidence of her leaving Ohio, no evidence of her entering Canada with or without him. It's just so frustrating. So this is going on 30 minutes. I got to get out of here. But yeah, Patricia Patti Adkins, age 29 when she went missing, June the 29th, 2001. This woman is still missing. Her daughter had to grow up without her. Her family is still missing her. It's so obvious on what happened to her. I just hope and pray that eventually this technology will be advanced enough for them to test that small sample of blood that was found on that tonneau cover, that was found on his truck, that he admitted to, and his business partner admitted that he bought that tonneau cover. Anyways, that's all I have to say. Let's pray for Patti and her family, and I'll talk to you later.